Hi, guys. Welcome back to Infinite Possibilities, the podcast where we explore the lives of amazing people, their choices, challenges, and opportunities. And today I have a very special guest, Jenine.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Karen, for having me. So excited to be here.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be here. So we'll just get straight into the podcast. So, Jenine, I want to know, what kind of child were you like growing up? Get some kind of context.
Oh, I think I was curious. So I love to play stuff. I love to problem solve. So I always like to almost break things so I could fix them again. And I guess technology came into my life fairly early. And I guess I just even things like, record sort of programming the VCR at the time, or just, back in the day when we had video cassettes. But being able to do basic things with technology around the house was lots of fun. I think I was a bit of a lonely kid, to be honest. I sort of found my own fun. So I guess it's, starting Tech Girls now, and I've sort of created my own party, I guess, and my own community. But I was very curious, and I loved music, and I loved reading. So I think I was the first person in my year one class to finish our first book, and I was reading, which I was super excited about. So always curious, and I think words are really powerful, so I've always loved words and adventures, I guess, stories and reading.
Yeah, that's so cool. And just wondering, were you an only child?
I have an older sister, but she's 7 years older, so it's quite a big difference between us. And so my father passed away when I was 5 and she was 12, so it was quite a big difference in age. And so we had different experiences, I guess, but it taught me a lot.
Yeah, cool. And when you say your father passed away when you were 5, so what kind of like effect did that have on you growing up? And I imagine that like being 5, like I feel like you don't really even have a concept of what like death is in that way. So was it just kind of like, oh, he's just not here, or?
Oh, it's a really interesting question. I think it had a huge effect on me. I have thought a lot about it, and there's some really interesting research around people who, I guess, somewhat successful, I guess you could say, who many have actually had parents pass away when they're quite young. Like if you go back through American presidents, and at least a quarter of them actually had a parent pass away when they were children. And there's a lot of research, which is quite interesting. And I don't know if I correlate in that somewhere, and I guess I've got some level of success. But I guess what I learned out of that was that life is short and you've got to make the most of it. And I've now outlived where my father was when he passed away. So I guess I always just thought, life's short, let's just do it. And I think that has enabled me to take a lot of risks I might not have otherwise, because I thought, what's the worst that could happen? Because we're probably not going to be here very long. So I guess having that mindset, let's give it a try, has probably enabled me to do a lot of things I wouldn't have done otherwise. So in that way, I'm grateful that I've been able to take something positive out of it.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, good on you. Yeah, definitely like boosts up your courage, right?
And gives you buckets of resilience, right? Like, you've got to find your way in a world without a parent. And again, no one really explains that to you, like I said, when you're young. So you don't really know what's going on and you just find your way through. So I think, I get a lot of resilience out of that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and I'm also kind of curious. So at what age were you exposed to tech, and in sort of what setting? Was it like at school or like at home tinkering with things?
Yeah, it was mostly at home. So when I was young, we probably have never seen this before, but we had these little gaming machines. So rather than having one console that had all the games, you would have little individual devices like Donkey Kong that would be its own device kind of thing. And I remember we had quite a lot of those. We didn't have a lot of money, but I do remember we had a few of those, and I just loved playing with them quite young. And just the gaming, I guess, I don't game much now, but the gaming was, I guess, fun. And I do remember we got our first computer when I was at home, and I was, maybe I was 9 or 10, and I remember it was this green screen computer, and we had a game on it. It had like a cassette tape attached to the keyboard, made funny noises. And I remember there was a game on it called Snowball, and Snowball was like a text-based game, so you had to go through this adventure, but it was all, you had to write everything and type everything, so there was no graphical interface at all. And I remember them saying like it would take 100 hours to get through the game, and I was like, oh, that's insane. And now if anyone uses Steam or go and play this game, you see how many hours that you've logged up, which is like, oh yeah, no, 100 is nothing. But I remember the time. It was just really fun to be able to try something new. And I do remember computers about grade 5 at school, and really it was just word processing. There wasn't much more to it, but I've just thought they look interesting and let's find out more.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. And what about like maybe your peer group at that time? Because I think like tech girls is like now really trendy and really cool, and also thanks to you. But at that time, was it kind of like kind of like a non-feminine thing to do? Like other girls are playing with, I don't know, dolls, stereotypes.
Yeah. Great question. To be honest, no, I've never really, no one's asked me that question. I've never thought about it. But to be honest, I was the only one. There was no one around me who was tinkering with technology at all, to be honest, now that I think about it. Yeah, and I think my mother was interested in technology, so she was quite an early adopter. And I do remember the day my sister got her first compact disc player, CD player, and it was this amazing thing that music would come off this disc, and I was like, wow, digital music. And I love music, so it was this whole, I literally remember sitting there listening to that CD over and over and over again because I was so excited about the technology. But yeah, I don't remember having anyone else around me that was interested in technology.
Wow, that's so cool. Good on you.
I just felt like drawn to it. It just made sense to me.
Yeah, and that's kind of cool. And also kind of curious about what you were like as a student when you were young. Were you like one of those, really engaged students, love school, or more on the flip side, like, meh, school, when are we finished?
I actually loved primary school, and I loved because I was in the choir. Not that I can sing at all, really, but I loved being in the choir, which was fun. And I loved, all the spelling bees, and I had great teachers. And yeah, it was a very safe space, my primary school, and I did really enjoy it. High school was a little more challenging. I guess you get thrown into general population, and that was a little more challenging, and move from class to class. But certainly primary school, I really enjoyed it, and yeah, it just felt comfortable and got my way through. I wasn't the best student by any means. I was always probably a B student. But yeah, it was enough to get through, and here we are now. It doesn't really matter like that you get A's in everything. That's not necessary, but I guess find your strengths and sort of work towards those. And yeah, I found them, and yeah, I like school. I think by the time I got to about grade 10, I was kind of over it because I was pretty disengaged because I think I guess it just, I love to learn, but that schooling, the classroom environment just didn't really work for me at those later ages, at those sort of upper high school. So I probably didn't try as hard as I could have. But then, I left high school and did 10 years of study. So it doesn't necessarily determine your life what you do in school, I don't think. Anything's possible. And I was never expected to go to university. I only have one person in my family who went to university. He didn't finish, but went to university. So I'm the first person in my family to finish university. And coming from a low SES background, growing up in public housing, I guess it's kind of a bit of a shift, the class ceiling they talk about. But yeah, it was never expected. So, and if I can do it, you can do it kind of thing.
Yeah, that's cool. And so when you're like around grade 10, in terms of like career paths and ways to make money, what was kind of like running through your mind, if anything?
So in year 10, I did work experience, and I did it as an electrician, funnily enough.
Ooh, very feminine. Yeah.
Yeah. So off I went to work with all the boys every day for a week, and which I loved. It was like, as a 15-year-old, I get to hang out with these guys kind of thing. It was kind of a bit of a novelty, I guess, and to be in a new space. And I love the idea, again, of tinkering and fixing things. But then I realized I had to get in the roof with spiders, and I went, yeah, no, probably not. So I didn't pursue that, but I guess I was always interested in technology and always liked to problem solve. And and then at school I did lots of different things. I didn't really have a pathway at all, to be honest, and I didn't think I'd go to university. I washed cars, I worked in supermarkets, I did all sorts of things, and then I decided to study, and I realized that education gives you choices. And so going back to study, if you've got to work for the rest of your life, you might as well do something you enjoy. So I went to TAFE. So I did a diploma of business, and I finished it. Yeah, I finished it quite quickly, or shorter than the usual time, and I really enjoyed it. And I just felt that I didn't really want to do business in general. I sort of needed something a bit more specific. And then I did technology as part of my diploma, and it was this is 20 plus years ago, so we were really doing word processing and literally pulling computers apart, and doing operating system stuff. And it was like, wow, there's always going to be something to learn, so let's do this. And got into my IT degree, and kind of went from there.
Oh, that's so cool. And what sort of made you realize like education gives you choices? Because you didn't get this, I guess, from your family, right? So where did you get it from?
That's a really great question, and I don't even know if I have the answer to that. I guess I felt I'm quite good at understanding my limitations, and I guess I felt that I wasn't able to progress further. I was just going to be doing, minimum wage jobs for as long as I could see. And, I worked in bars and restaurants and things, and I loved all of that, but I knew I was never going to get a higher hourly rate than that. So that was kind of as far as I could go. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm pretty young. It should kind of go up, I think, and it's not going to. So, and, it's not about the money, but it's about, I guess, participating in life and having a way of contributing, I guess. And I didn't feel I was contributing.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and then when you told me that you enrolled in IT, what was that sort of like? What was the like chat with the parents? And like, you're like the first one to go to university in your family, so that must be like a sort of momentous kind of moment. How did that decision come through? Like, and how did you? It's a big kind of jump.
I don't think they understood it, to be honest, the family. But I was fortunate. My husband now I met just before I went to university, and we both actually decided to go to university together. And neither of us had people in our family who had really been to university, but we both decided, not significantly. So we both decided, let's do it together. And we kind of moved away and went to university together. So that was fun. And here we are 7 years later or something like that. But I guess it was just, it was almost breaking out of my childhood as well. Like I wanted to do something very different. So moving to a new town and moving to the city and things was quite nice. And I don't think my family understood it at all, like, for many, many years. And but it's like, well, we got to do something. And to be honest, they probably thought I was crazy, because why would you give up a job and go and study? And of course I worked all the way through university, but I worked every single Friday and Saturday night waitressing pretty much through uni. But I don't think they got it. But I'm not someone who cares too much what other people think, to be honest.
Yeah, that's cool. And a hypothetical scenario. So say if you didn't have your husband at the time, do you think you would have been able to be that one person by yourself to apply for uni and navigate through?
Would have been a lot harder, definitely.
Yeah, so much harder.
And because we came from similar kind of backgrounds, from a place where people didn't go to university, I think it was good that we were together. Really good question. And it would be very different, I think, my life.
Yeah, that's cool. So how did you find IT? How did you meet any other girls in IT? Like, what did it look like at the time?
Yeah, it was pretty scary, to be honest, because I was a mature age student. So I was maybe 23 when I went to university to do an undergrad. So I was a little bit older than the 18-year-old smelly guys in the room, which it seemed like at the time. And I remember being one of half a dozen women out of 300 guys in the lecture theatre. So it was very intimidating. And I do remember the guys always putting their hand up to answer questions, particularly in programming classes. And they seemed to know all the answers. Even if they didn't, they put their hand up anyway. And I was never going to put my hand up. And I felt that they were miles ahead of me, because they'd been coding since they were kids and that kind of stuff, whereas I didn't really do that. So I did feel a long way behind. And I hadn't programmed before. And I remember in my first year, my major is information systems, so much like yourself. And I did information systems as a subject in my first year, so introduction to information systems. And I had a great male lecturer. And it was like, there's people and technology together. It's like, wow, there are people in technology. This is my kind of thing. And that was a turning point for me. Like, I almost quit in my first year. I remember having to program a PDP-8, like assembler language or something like that. And I remember like, what am I doing? This is not what I want to be doing. And I remember half the class cheated, and it was just awful. And I certainly wasn't one of those, but it was like, what's the point if this is, we're not really even learning stuff? And then, I found information systems and the whole world changed. And I fell in love with that. And that was my major. And in the end, my PhD was in information systems. And I actually did find a few other girls. I had two others in first year that we became very good friends. And by our third year, we had to do an industry project. I remember, like a placement project, and there were 5 of us girls and 1 guy in the team. So it was very unusual. We all got in the one team and we just beat all the guys. And the guy we had was a very token guy anyway. He didn't really do anything. I remember in our third year, we actually had other male students who had a nickname for us girls, because we were just beating the pants off them basically, and they weren't happy about that. So they called us power bitches. Like, it was this
nice.
So we kind of walked with a badge of honor. We're like, yeah, we are. Okay, we're going to beat you. Good luck. So it was fun. I was very fortunate, though. I had a number of female lecturers in my second and third year. I had 3 of them who were really quite strong role models, even head of school. And they kind of took us under their wing, particularly in third year. And that made all the difference to have them as role models, like all the difference. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. And did you experience any sort of like prejudice during your degree? Like, was it mainly like, I don't know, from the, I guess, male lecturers maybe, or maybe from your peers, like, oh, she can't code, she's a girl.
Exactly that. That's exactly what happened. So I remember sitting in a programming tutorial in my first year. And again, I wasn't very confident with programming, but I was willing to give it a try and learn. And I think we were doing C or something like that. Anyway, the male lecturer stood at the front of the room and clearly declared that girls can't program to the entire class while I
Oh,
was sitting in the room. And, I definitely took that on board and thought, oh, well, I can't. And I probably didn't try as much as I could have after that, because I really did take that on board. He went on to win teaching awards and things like that. But anyway, and he did it year after year to other students, I heard. But yeah, fortunately, I found a pace that I felt comfortable, but not so much from the other students that I know of, other than, names and things like that, which I don't really care about. I think it just came down to, well, I'll just prove you I can do better. I don't care.
yeah. Wow. And then sort of given the confidence that you have now, do you think that if you were to be in that same scenario, would you raise your hand and be like, oh, sir, actually, I can code? Or, but I think that's quite intimidating to do, especially when there's a strong power distance. When he's your lecturer, he knows more than you do.
Absolutely. And there was a room full of guys as well. So, and I was one of a couple, there was only probably two girls in the class. If I might have been the only one, I can't quite remember, but there were very, very few of us. So sort of it was like, oh, okay, you're such in the minority. So yeah, no, I mean, now I would put my hand up and go, are you serious? No, it'd be completely different now. But yeah, at the time, I really did take it to heart, and I did believe him, and which is annoying because that can make such a difference in people's lives. That one liner, that one, off the cuff comment can make such a big difference to people. You can
Yeah,
internalize that. So yeah, no, I'd totally call it out, no question. Are you
yeah.
serious? The girls get the pants off the guys, and most of the time they do. So I went on to teach at university for many years. So probably 15
Yeah.
years I was teaching first year information systems. So that same subject that I fell in love with, I taught
Oh,
for 15
amazing.
years, and it was great. I loved it, and I had lots of international students. And I remember semester after semester, I'd have very few women in the room, but every single time the women would beat the pants off the guys, but they didn't hang around because they didn't want to be the only woman in the room. So I saw it semester after
Oh,
semester after semester.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, and at that time when you, I guess you believed him when he said that women can't code, like how come, I guess, how come you didn't quit? I guess, when people hear that, when you feel that like you are never going to be as good as others and that your choices, in the same way that you felt that being an electrician, like you needed education, freedom for choices, if your choices were going to be limited, like I feel like I might have quit at that point if I. So, like, how did you, was it because you had great female, like, lecturers, or at that vulnerable time, why didn't you quit essentially?
Yeah, I think really it comes back to that information systems. Like, I guess I just found there was something else that was as good as that was bad kind of thing. And I thought, well, if programming is not for me, well, there are other options. So there are other majors. So I did software engineering as a major, and I did information systems. I didn't do computer science. So I guess it kind of shaped the majors that I did.
Yeah.
And they were very much more about project management and building a whole project, and about people and the integration of that, and having good, I guess, infrastructure and all of that kind of stuff. So I've just thought, I did such a broad IT degree that there were different pathways, and I found, well, if that one's not for me, then there are others that I can choose. So, but I certainly did very seriously consider quitting in my first year. I remember sitting in a chair going, I'm done. I mean, I can't do this. And then fortunately I was inspired, and yeah, and I just fell in love with how systems work and how systems can make people's lives better. Like, technology shouldn't make our life more difficult, it should definitely make our life better. And that's what information systems gave me the opportunity to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Technology is a tool, right?
Absolutely. It's only good as the person sitting behind it, right? If the person behind it's no good, then your technology isn't very good.
Yeah, that's true. And so straight after your degree, what kind of like did you do some work? And then how did you sort of come to, pursuing a PhD? I mean, that's like a whole nother level, right? First one to be at uni out of your family, and then to do a PhD, like the family is like, what is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question. So I finished my degree, and I did honours. So I did my honours degree, and that gave me a bit of expertise in a particular area, which was interesting. And that ended up leading to writing a book and some other things, which became quite a popular textbook in the US, which was awesome. And so when I finished my honours, my supervisors wanted me to do a PhD. and they asked me for about 6 years, I think, to try to get me to do a PhD, and I kept saying no. I'd seen many other people come through a PhD, and I'd saw a number of people not finish, and I never wanted to be one of those people. And I don't know if you know the stats of PhD completions in Australia and around the world are actually quite low. So it's many as like 70% of people don't finish their PhD. It's quite high. It varies, the numbers vary, but it can be quite high. And I just didn't want to be one of those people. I'm not a person who doesn't finish things. So if I start, I'm going to finish it. So I didn't have all the right bits and pieces together to agree to that. So in the meantime, I was very fortunate that, I started working with Sonja, and so I did a bit of consulting. So that was back when I finished my degree. And then after I left Sonja, I started working in a cooperative research centre as part of the university. So we had a big research project. It was called the Smart Internet Technology, funnily enough. So this is back in 2002. And I was brought into that as a researcher, and it was awesome because we had a team. It was like multiple universities were involved. So I had a great team at RMIT that I'd go to Melbourne, every 2 months. I get to go shopping because their office is in the city. And so it was a real great thing to go and work with a really interesting multidisciplinary team, which I hadn't done before. I was working with lawyers and sociologists, and I learned so much from them about how to do research and how not to do research, actually, to be honest, a bit of both. And yeah, I really like that. And we got to try to think about how to solve real problems for people with technology. And I'd never had that practical application before. So I know we were doing projects on, say, internet banking and Indigenous internet banking. So why were Indigenous people not using internet banking services? And they were some of the things we were trying to uncover. So it was fascinating. So I really enjoyed that. I did that for a number of years. And I guess I got to a point where I realized that if I wanted to do my own research, I kind of needed a PhD. So I could only, again, go so far with the qualifications I had. I was never going to be in a senior research position to create my own projects. So I was like, I guess I'll do a PhD. And I was fortunate, total first world problem, but again, fortunate that at that time, the project I was working on finished, and I could see that I could continue that on as part of my PhD. So I actually had a project that I was interested in.
That's awesome.
I got offered a scholarship, so I got an APA scholarship, and I got a top up from the CRC, so that gave me enough money to get by. And I had 2 great supervisors. So once all the kind of things lined up, then it was like, okay, I'll give this a try. But it was funny. I kind of felt at the time I was a bit being demoted rather than promoted. Like I was like, oh, I'm back as a lowly PhD student.
Yeah.
But that was rubbish. It was all in my head. But the PhD process is a crazy thing. It's a very lonely process. It's very much a roller coaster. Some days you feel awesome and know everything. Other days you feel you know nothing, and no one really understands unless you've been through the process. So but you get through. And if I did it again, I'd do it completely differently, but that's okay. You learn so much, and it's like doing an undergraduate. Like you sort of start at nothing, and then you end up somewhere, and that's what it's meant to be. It's a learning process. It's kind of like an apprenticeship to do research. So, I eventually agreed, and did my PhD and finished that, and that was 11 years ago now. So it's a little while ago.
Wow, awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. Like, what about research drew you towards it? Because I felt like when I listened to your story from the beginning, electrician, tinkering, you sound like a very much hands-on person. And then you'd think that, PhD, I'm not really sure much about the IT degree, but if it's very hands-on in terms of research, yeah.
The pathway I took in my IT degree probably wasn't so hands-on because I didn't do computer science. So I wasn't coding per se. It was more design, I guess. And I guess designing the solution to a problem, which was what I'm interested in. And research. I guess again, just being curious, and research is always something new to learn. How exciting is that? So not really sure why. I guess I was surrounded by a number of people doing research at the time. And when I was in my 3rd year, 2 of the lecturers I had, the female lecturers, they were actually doing a research project on the lack of women in IT. This is back in 2000. So this is 22 years ago they were doing this research. Actually, they got the grant, the ARC grant, in 1997. Wow. So they were pioneers in the space. And so in my 3rd year, I was very fortunate. They brought me onto their research team and a couple of the other female students. And we started doing interviews, and they taught us how to do research. And it was like, this is really cool. We get to find stuff out. And then, of course, the perk was then you get to go to conferences, so which obviously we don't do right now. So I remember at the end of my honours degree going to Melbourne and presenting at a conference. And I remember there was a professor in the room who tore me apart. Actually, it was quite awful, but anyway, you get over it. And it was about him and not me. But yeah, and I got to meet these great people at the conference. I was like, this is kind of fun. Let's do more of this. But yeah, it was more about the problem solving, of using research to solve, long-standing problems and find solutions.
Yeah, that's cool. And yeah, just wondering, like, you have two companies, right? One is the Tech Girl movement, and then one is Adroit Research. So how did you just first decide to, found Adroit Research? How did that happen?
So that was when I was still doing my PhD, and
Ooh, ambitious.
So you're kind of on the side. I'm a bit of an overachiever, and I get bored very easily. So I always have lots of things going on. And you're right, with my hands, I always have to be doing something with my hands. Yeah, so it's one step back. So when I was in 2000, I was very fortunate. My supervisors at the time gave me a summer project to do between my undergraduate and my honors degree. So it was, 3 months over the summer. You have that time hanging around. They wanted to keep me because they wanted me to do honors, so they needed to kind of employ me. So they found a little bit of money, and they said, oh, there's this piece of software. We want you to go and work out how it works, and then come back and tell us and write a report about it. I was like, okay, I can do that for 3 months. So interestingly, that 3 months actually changed my whole life. And I still use that very much today. That's actually part of my core business, and what I sell is those skills that I learned or started to learn back in that summer holiday. So the program at the time they wanted me to learn was some software called NVivo.
Oh, love it. Used it. Yeah.
So NVivo software is qualitative research software. And so they were doing interviews and things. So they got me to go and learn the software. It was called something slightly different at the time. So I spent 3 months doing that and wrote a report. I was like, it's really fun. And I kind of became the resident sort of expert in the software, even though I knew very little. Then when I was working with Sonja, I know I started doing some training in the software. So I started teaching other people, and I remember going to Melbourne to learn from the people who created the software and learn from them straight up, which was pretty cool to be able to do. And then I guess I got to my PhD and needed some money. I didn't want to keep waitressing, so all that kind of stuff. You can only do that so many Friday and Saturday nights in your life. So yeah, I started Adroit Research, and the idea was to train people up in NVivo software and how to use it for research. And yeah, I wasn't very good in the beginning, but I got better. And yeah, I've been doing it for such a long time now. I can literally tell you what to do without even having a screen in front of me. So I know exactly where everything is and how it works. So I literally use it almost every day. And so, yeah, so I started doing that with Adroit, and I guess I just fell in love with researchers. Like, researchers it's a real privilege to do research, and research problems are fun problems to solve. And doing good research is so important. And there's a lot of bad research, a lot of badly done research out there. So yeah, I set up Adroit to improve the quality and reputation of qualitative research. And so yeah, 15 years later, here we are. And I've literally just 4 months ago, launched an online community for PhD students.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Together and collaborate and share my research experience with them and troubleshoot them along the way. And yeah, it's fun. So I've been, I used to travel a lot, teach NVivo universities all over the place. And yeah, so that one moment kind of made me start Adroit, I guess, because I had the software, and I'm one of maybe 3 experts in Australia that actually have that level of detailed knowledge.
Oh, that's crazy.
Maybe 1,000 people worldwide. So yeah, it's very few of us.
Yeah,
lots of
NVivo God.
I'm kind of the guru. Yeah, you can ask me anything. So if you ever get stuck, ask me a question. But but it's awesome. It's amazing software. And for me, it's great to be able to combine my technology skills with research. And so technology helps us to do so much in research. So yeah, so I did that, finished my PhD. Excuse me.
Yeah,
some water. And
yeah.
And actually, interestingly, just after I started Adroit, the timing, again, being a bit of an overachiever, and I should have been doing my PhD, but everything else was more interesting at the time. So I started a business, and then I started another business, because that's when Tech Girl started as well. So pretty much, similar timing. Well, sort of. So this is back in 2008 when I started Adroit. And at the time, I wrote a book. So you may not have seen the book, but it's a pink book.
I know.
Tech Girls are chic. So it was actually before the superheroes. Yeah. And I had a friend, and I had been involved in running sort of outreach programs for girls. So every year we would run an event called Technology Takes You Anywhere. We'd bring girls onto like a university campus, and they'd have a day where they got to meet women in tech and learn all about it and hopefully be inspired. So I was doing that for many years. And then I thought, oh, let's write a book, because we need something for girls to take away at the end of the day. So yes, the day is great, but we need to convince their parents as well. And we need something beyond the one day. So yeah, we created Tech Girls Are Chic, and it featured something like 16 different women who worked in tech, and it had like a photo of them and then a fiction story about something related to them in life, and got a little bit of money. I remember IBM gave us like $5,000 to start off, and that kind of kicked it off, and printed 20,000 copies. And that was kind of, just giving them out here and there. It was very ad hoc. It was not at all organized, and I didn't have a formal business for it. It was just something that I kind of did on the side while I was doing my PhD, go out to schools and present and stuff like that. And then finish my PhD, and it's like, now what am I going to do? I don't know. I don't really want to be a full-time academic. So what else can I do? And I guess Adroit was kind of bubbling over in the background. And then I set up, Tech Girls. So that was back in late 2013. So it's our 10-year anniversary next year, which just blows my mind. I just can't believe that's even possible. So I had this tiny little idea. And I guess for me, the Tech Girl stuff was a passion. So it was something I really cared about, because I just didn't like being the only woman in the room, right? It's pretty boring. So it was really about getting more, about getting more women into, I guess, degrees or whatever pathway, but getting them into tech. And so I set up Tech Girls, and it was really just to channel some energy that I had and something that I cared about. And I certainly didn't think it would be anything like it is today. It was just kind of me set this up, and we launched on International Women's Day 2014, just at the State Library, just up the road here. And it kind of kicked off. So we had a series of books. So the first book was Tech Girls Are Superheroes. Similar idea. It featured 16 different women who doing interesting things. Changed it a little bit and mixed it up with the superhero kind of persona, because so in 2013 I went to the Brisbane Writers Festival, and I remember sitting there and hearing this woman speak. So this woman's name was Kelly DeConnick, and she was speaking about this superhero character that she had created for Marvel. So at the time she had a character called Captain Marvel, which now Captain Marvel, we know what she's like. But if you think about 8 years ago, Captain Marvel was not a movie or anything like that. So it was basically in print on paper. And so Kelly had created this character, and she talked about how this character had a magic cap. And this character would put on the magic cap to get through challenging times. And what she found was she had this community of fans around the world. And for instance, one of the fans was going in for cancer surgery or something, and she literally knitted a magic cap and wore it when she went into surgery. I was just like, that's so cool. Like the fact that you can create a character and inspire someone to do something like that, and that gives them strength to get through. I was like, that's pretty awesome. And so I thought, what if we can get girls to be dressed up as superheroes? Maybe that could make them think, I can do this. And that's kind of where the Tech Girls Are Superheroes idea was born. And it's like, give it a try. And I honestly had no idea what I was doing. Or slightly more than I did when I started Adroit, but very little. And just like, give it a try. What can go wrong? And so I started that. So I printed 20,000 copies of that book.
Wow, that's a lot.
Started to get them out. And I guess what precipitated that was, I think it was back like early 2013. I was presenting at QUT. So they had like a mentoring event or something, a women in tech event, and I was presenting. And I had this girl come up to me afterwards, and she was like tugging on my arm, and she was like, oh my goodness, did you write the pink book? And so this was like 5 years earlier. And I was like, yeah, I did. She goes, well, I'm now studying technology at QUT because I read that book when I was in school. And I was like, that's so awesome. So I was like, well, if there's one story out there, there must be others. And if it can have that kind of impact on her, imagine if I kind of do it better, it might have more of an impact and know what I'm doing. So that's kind of where that came from as well. So that's Anna, and Anna's actually featured in our all of our Tech Girls and Superheroes books, which is awesome.
That's
so
crazy. Full circle.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. She's our steampunk girl, and she was even in our marketing campaign we did 2 years ago. So we've had this long relationship together, which is really beautiful. And so printed the book, started getting them around to schools, and a couple of years later, out of that, set up the not-for-profit. And here we are, I guess 9 years later, and we've had 80,000 books, the pink books, and a few versions of the superheroes books have gone out. We've had them in every single school in Australia. So Google funded one in every single school library. I have teachers coming back asking for new copies because the copies are so worn because they've enjoyed them so much.
Oh, that's crazy.
I have stories of a girl who picked up a book at an expo that we had, and her mother drove her home, and she literally would not get out of the car until she finished every last word in the book. So she sat in the car for like 3 hours and finished the book.
Wow, dedication.
I've got a 3-year-old who sleeps with the book, who used to sleep with the book, and her favorite character. She couldn't even read it, but she had a favorite character. So the books have been super powerful. I've got teachers and students dress up as characters for book club at school, and yeah, it's been incredible to see how much impact, and I know this much of the impact that it's had. But yeah, I mean, what's your superpower, Karen? And it's so being a superhero, it's not about being good at everything, but finding the one thing that you're good at that makes you different but makes you awesome. So
yeah. I'm also kind of curious about the writing process. How did you, like, you're an overachiever, but how did you bash out the book? Like, did you?
I had a lot of help. Yeah, no, I definitely had a lot of help for the writing of the book, and I have to be immensely grateful to actually one of my PhD supervisors, who was one of my lecturers in my second year. She was working for me quite a bit, actually, and she's so Dr. Sue Nelson. So she actually wrote at least half of the stories, if not more of them, and so she actually punched them out really quickly. It was phenomenal. She'd do like one in a day. It was amazing.
Wow.
And, it wasn't complete, but I think we did it in a 6-week period. We literally wrote the whole book in 6 weeks. It was crazy. So, as you do, Janine's like, okay, it's November. Oh, we should write a book and we should launch it on International Women's Day in March. Yeah, let's get them printed, 20,000, all that before then. So let's do it in 3 months. And that's literally what we did like 3 times. We're just like, yep, let's get it together. Let's get it out there. So Sue was an absolute trooper. She's written a science fiction novel, which is really awesome as well. And so she was very into that and loved writing. And so some people did write their own stories. Sue wrote a number of them, and then somewhere in the middle for others. But yeah, no, she was an absolute powerhouse, just pumping them through. And yeah, we had lots of fun with it. And we all have it's nice we all have an avatar now, and yeah. Really cool.
That's cool. And was there any sort of backlash in the early days? Like, you're encouraging, women to be superheroes, not just princesses. And yeah, was there any sort of kind of backlash in the beginning, or everyone was like, oh yeah?
Oh no, there has been a bit. Actually, even before that, when we had the pink book, the Tech Girls Are Chic, it was very, very pink. And there was like a very girly girl on the front. And we did that on purpose because we wanted girls who wouldn't otherwise consider tech to pick up the book because it was pink. So I did that on purpose, so that they would read it just because it was pink. So it was a very specific type of person we were trying to reach with that. I actually did have some negative feedback from some female developers, actually. I think it was even at Google or somewhere like that. It was a long time ago. But they were like, oh, we don't like the pink book. That doesn't represent us. And blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, that's fine. It's not meant to represent everyone. So take it on board. Took the pink on board and didn't do another pink book because, it is a little controversial. And, it had been done. And then got to the superheroes concept. And I remember I had a marketing person working with me in the very beginning. And I said, oh, yeah, we're going to call Tech Girls superheroes. She's like, oh, you can't do superheroes. And this is a marketing person. She's like, no, you can't do that. She goes, women are trying to juggle everything and like saying that, superhero is just, just unreachable and it's going to give the wrong message. And I was like, no, I'm hanging on to this. Like, I actually think I've got some of this. And usually I would have been persuaded, but I just had this gut feeling. You got to trust your gut sometimes. Like, no, I think there's something here. And then we devised the competition, which was called the Search for the Next Tech Girl Superhero, which was kind of the play on, Next Top Model at the time. So that was sort of the wording, which now has changed. But yeah, so I actually dug my heels in on that one and it worked out.
Yeah, that's amazing. But also, tell me about the lawsuit over superheroes, that word.
Yeah, I have to be a little careful. I'm not allowed to say too much about that. So most of it's confidential. But yeah, there certainly was a lawsuit for us using the word superheroes. There was a claim that some rather large companies in the world, very large, owned the word. So yeah, that went on for 4 years, actually, from the beginning. So I literally started after I printed 20,000 copies. They're all sitting under my house, and I got a letter to say, you can't use the word. I was like, well, I've got 20,000 books with the word on. What am I going to do? So I was very fortunate. I got very, very good legal advice through, a contact that I had, and they were very supportive. And yeah, well, in the end, I now own the trademark Tech Girls Are Superheroes in Australia. So you can kind of work out what happened.
Yeah, happy ending. Yeah,
it was very difficult though for the first 4 years of our existence, having this legal cloud over our head, and on some level, I guess, being bullied a little bit as lawyers tend to do. But yeah, it was very challenging. But the advice was just keep doing what you do and let us sort this out in the background. And I did that, and yeah, it worked out in the end. And
cool. So you were still allowed to keep distributing them while the legal
it wasn't. Yeah. So it was sort of like stop using it, but I guess it had to go through the process. And while it went through the process, it took 4 years. So I just kept doing what I was doing in the meantime. And
wow, that's so crazy that while you're working on something, you don't know whether or not you will still be able to use it.
It was really odd. And I remember having conversations of alternative names. And it was like, well, there's really nothing else you can call it but superheroes. Like, that's what it is. And we're all dressed up as superheroes. I wear a cape, you know, like what else do you call it? So yeah, it was a bit odd, but we did definitely look at what the plan Bs. And
Yeah.
if we had to go to a plan B, we would have. Unfortunately, we got the trademark. So it's all ours now, which is great.
Did you have a plan B name? Any chance?
Not one that we were happy with, no. We didn't quite get to that point. We would have found one, but yeah, we didn't find one we were happy with. Fortunately, we didn't have to go to plan B, but always have a plan B and a C up your sleeve.
Yeah, that's cool. And also, tell me about your alter ego, Juella.
Juella, yeah. So Juella. So I guess Juella, the name comes from, I used to make jewelry with gemstones when I used to have a little bit more time and through my PhD and things. Yeah, I love gemstones and just, you know, the healing powers of gemstones. And yeah, so I guess Juella being a jewel and making jewelry, that's where the name came from. And
oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, so Sue actually came up with the name. So Sue, who helps with the books, came up with the name Juella, which I love. And actually, I've literally got it on my phone here. I've got Juella.
Oh, so cute. Yeah.
So I do like it, and yeah, it kind of stuck. And if you read the first story of the Tech Girls and Superheroes, part of what I do as my superpower is I actually go into outer space and I have find this gemstone and I bring it back to Earth and it kind of saves the world kind of thing. So yeah, so we sort of worked it into the story. And yeah, I don't know, I think jewels are a pretty amazing thing. And I think always my advice to people is always like, try to make yourself a diamond, like try to make yourself something that is scarce, but people love, I guess. And it's sort of like, how do you find that space for yourself that and the value you can provide? So I think it's got a number of meanings there, but yeah, jewel is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. And do you ever find yourself, have you ever, like, you know, when you're in a sort of situation that you're stuck in, you sort of channel the power of Juella? Do you actually sort of use that sometimes? Because that could actually work.
Yeah, sort of. I'm not sure if you're aware, have you come across Amy Cuddy at all?
Oh, I've heard of it. Oh, is it the power poses?
Yeah. So that's kind of part of this, and I do channel that a little bit. And so she's done the research around, you know, getting your hands on your hips and standing up. So if you're in a lift, about to go into a meeting, get your hands on your hips and stand up and go, I've got this. And so there is really something in that, and I have been known to do that occasionally. Yeah, and weird turn of events. I follow Amy Cuddy's her Instagram and I comment occasionally, and she's actually written back a few times and I'll see that she likes my comments and I'm like, oh, I've got this connection, which is really nice. But yeah, it's super inspiring. And I think there's really something about looking yourself in the eye and just talking to yourself and going, yeah, no, you've got this. And just, I mean, the thing is, everyone's making it up as they go along, right? Like no one knows what they're doing. And I wish I knew that a long time ago, but yeah, everyone's making it up as they're going along. So even though some look like they know what they're doing more than others, but yeah, literally everyone's making it up. So why not make it up?
Yeah, and I guess like that's kind of like touching on imposter syndrome. So like now that you've been in the business for so long, do you still get that, like, because you know there's that saying, fake it till you make it, but then if you have that saying, you can still go about the task and get everything done, but you still feel like a fraud. Does that imposter syndrome still linger with you, like even now today?
It's a great question. I think there are definitely moments. There are certainly moments where you have it where you're like, oh, can I do this? Or you sort of overcommit, or maybe you couldn't do what you thought you could. I definitely get a lot less. I think it's just lots of practice. I guess I've had a lot of situations where I've just had to learn and work things out just over and over and over again. And I'm always someone who puts my hand up and goes, yeah, I can do about half of that. And then I'll give it a try. So, and I do fake it till I make it. Absolutely. I always do that. And that's why I've learned so much though, because I've always stick my hand up and go, yeah, I'll give it a try. And you know, it might take me a bit longer, but I'll learn. And I think we all have that capacity to learn. So I think I still get it occasionally, but I think I'm finally at a point where it's like, yeah, I've kind of done I've been able to do pretty much everything I've put my mind to. So I just need to probably exercise more, or, you know, eat better and other things. You know, like all of us. But yeah, I figure I'm doing okay. And yeah, I don't, not too much.
Yeah, that's cool. And why don't you also tell the audience about like the role of like the 80% rule, the 80-20 rule, and how it has sort of like made you aim for completion rather than perfection?
Absolutely. And I'm just looking, I've got this really awesome card in front of me. If you give me 1 second. Get that one. Oh, yeah, here we go. Sorry.
Yes, I love it. Yeah.
So we're giving those out to our mentors this year for our students to inspire them a little bit. But yeah, 80% rule, absolute fan of that. It's done is better than perfect. And so I figure if I can do things 80% well, then the other 20% doesn't matter so much. And usually the other 20% is the overachieving part, and it's kind of all in my head anyway. And no one else knows what's in my head and what my expectations are. So they're usually pretty happy with the 80%. So,
Yeah.
and if perfection is just impossible anyway. So it's just an unachievable goal. So it's just not even possible. And so I think just lowering your expectations just a little bit. And mine are actually probably bigger than most people's anyway. So I figure it's sort of balancing me out. But yeah, and I just remember the first time it hit me was when I had the launch of Tech Girls, and we were at the State Library up the road. And I remember I was about to stand at the front of the room in front of all these people and launch this, new program, a new company and things. And my balloons hadn't turned up. So I remember this moment. So I paid for these amazing balloons. I really didn't have much money at the time, but I paid for these amazing balloons, and they just hadn't turned up in time. And I was just like, where are my balloons? Where are my balloons? Anyway, I had to go out and present, and the balloons were supposed to be behind me, and they just hadn't turned up. And they turned up halfway when I was speaking, and they were at the door, and I was like, well, what do I do? And I just remember I was so stressed about these stupid balloons, and no one else knew that they were supposed to be there, right? No one else knew they were supposed to be home. It was only me. And I was like, really? Get over yourself. Like, no one cares about balloons. And that was that 20%. It's like, no one cares. No one cares. It was amazing. No one cares about balloons.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. Like the fact that it can take so much space in your head. And
overthinking, right? Total overthinking. And then you just get in a spiral, and no, it's not helpful. It's like, who cares?
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, now tell me more about your superhero, and also the other superhero that has maybe made you, I guess, successful in business, that kind of area.
My superhero. So I guess really it's all about adventure. And for me, being Juella, it was about bringing other superheroes on the journey and showing that we're out there, even if you don't see us very often. So you often don't, well, particularly 8 years ago, you didn't see a lot of women in tech. So you may not see us, but we're there, and we're part of a sisterhood, and that's a good thing. And so come and join the sisterhood. And that was really the premise behind it. So let's all work together and solve problems together. And so that was sort of the premise behind bringing it together. And at the end of the second book, second book, it brings us all back together and go, oh, well, how are we going to sort of work together to fight this, big evil monster per se, whatever that was. And so it was really about community. It was about belonging, and it was about bringing people together. And I don't think I realized that at the time. Only reflecting, that's what I did. But yeah, it was a pretty powerful thing. So so I guess just going on, I guess about adventures as well. And we all love adventures, right? So it's like, well, let's go and have adventures, but then also bring in a little bit of social justice. And it's probably weird to admit, I'm actually not really into superheroes in general, like superhero movies and stuff. Like, it doesn't really do much for me, but I love the concept of the superhero. Yeah, no, I love the concept of the superhero. And I've got this book here, which is called The Myth of the Superhero. And it's a great book just on the history of superheroes and back 100 years kind of thing, and how they came about. And the concept of a superhero, I guess, is it's truth, it's justice, it's strength, it's doing good, it's working together. I really love the values of a superhero, not the superhero per se, but the values underlying superheroes, and that's what I tried to tap into with all the people I brought on board. And let's all, I guess, show young people that technology can be used for good as well.
Yeah.
And it's not just tech for tech's sake. Tech for tech's sake doesn't particularly appeal to girls in my experience, and some boys as well. But there are a lot of boys who just, I guess it's the tool versus toy kind of idea. So I'm generalizing a bit here, but in my experience, boys tend to use technology as a toy and to play with it, where women tend to use technology as a tool to get something done. So I think they're quite different purposes. And so, how can we use technology as a tool to actually make the world a better place and makes people's lives better?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I really think that your superpower is like about like your ability to unite people, like building that community, you said, for PhD students, because the PhD journey is so lonely, but also being a tech girl and also having that sort of early childhood experience of like being by yourself, tinkering with your own thing. So that's crazy that it's really like come full circle, like everything does. in the
I
world.
know. And weirdly, to throw it in there, my PhD was actually about online communities and how to build a good what makes a good online community. And then
Okay.
I started Tech Girls, which is a community in itself. We as a community, we spent, I think, 10,000 hours on STEM entrepreneurship last year. If you look at what us at Tech Girls headquarters did, our mentors, our students, our coaches, our judges, all of that together made up conservatively 10,000 hours. It's probably more like 15,000 hours over like 3 or 4 months. So yeah, it's certainly a community, and it's pretty cool to come back to this.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's cool. I also have some sort of, I guess, businessy kind of questions. So I was kind of curious. So like, I know that like, in terms of Adroit research and for Tech Girls, it was kind of like you had an idea and then you started. So how did you sort of like build it from the ground up? So Adroit research, did you sort of quickly create a website, or did you just like tell people word of mouth? How did you sort of legitimize it?
Yeah, very badly, probably.
But it was done.
That's exactly right. Gave it 80%, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I had a website for quite a while, to be honest. It was really just word of mouth. And to be honest, it still has been to this day. I don't really advertise my services. Most people come to me. And sometimes someone will come to me and they're like, oh, yeah, my supervisor said I should do this because they did your course 5 years ago. Or like it's that long time sometimes. Like 5 years ago, I did this and now I'm coming back. Or actually, at the end of last year, I had a number of people I did workshops for, and they had been students in my workshops like 3 or 4 years before. And now they were running research programs. So they got me back. So it's this.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I love it. But yeah, I did get a website eventually, and we've only just rebranded it like late last year. So the website lasted like 12 years, which obviously was way out of date. Very terrible. It was so bad in the end. But yeah, I guess I just kind of cobbled things together. Like I do one little bit and the next little bit and the next little bit just to keep things bubbling along. Tech Girls, I didn't actually pay myself for the first 4 years, to be really honest.
Gosh.
So that's why I kind of had Adroit, and I was doing other things on the side, working part-time and other things, teaching. That's why I was teaching to kind of pay the bills. But I guess I just cared so much. I wanted it to happen regardless. And, probably 5 years in, I thought it was actually going to fold and we weren't going to continue. We actually had another legal case, which wasn't our doing. And people kind of came after us, and it was quite ugly. Anyway, it was quite public, so you can find out about it online. But so that we going through that, and then we sort of didn't really have any money, and it was not for profit, and it was just really, really hard. And I remember my husband saying, is it worth it? Why don't you just go get a job? And I was like, well, if I don't at least stand up and see it through, how can I expect girls to do that? So I have to role model that for them. So again, fortunately, it worked out through a lot of hard work. And here we are, going into our 10th year in a year's time, but starting our 9th year now. And yeah, really just cobbling it together and just trying to learn as much as you can and surround yourself with good people. And that's not easy to do. To hire good people is not an easy thing to do, to find good people. But yeah, just keep trying. Just keep trying.
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah, and when did you also start to, I guess, like officially get everything registered, and like how did you like register like Adroit research if you did, and then register like Tech Girls?
Yeah, I mean, I think that part's pretty easy. In Australia, I think it takes 4 days to set up a business or something like that.
Oh man.
In New Zealand, it takes about 8 hours or 4 hours, I think. So it's actually much quicker in New Zealand. So yeah, it's a bit harder here, but other countries harder. But you basically just get an Australian business number, an ABN, register that, and you're pretty much right to go. So once you've got that number, I think it costs you $80 or something, off you go. So, but yeah.
Everyone can start businesses now.
Anyone can start a business, yeah. So I think that part's quite easy. I think the hardest part is believing in yourself, and just people say no, like people say no a lot, and particularly running a not-for-profit, people say no a lot. Like I'm kind of always asking for money to do stuff. And that's really hard when you get 1 yes to 10 no's. But again, it builds resilience, and now it's down to probably 3 to 1, so the odds get better. But but I think just believing in yourself every day. And just picking up your shoes, off you go, and do it again and do it again and do it again. But yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah, that's cool. And also just wondering, how do you juggle both? Do you have like 80% of my energy goes to Tech Girls and then 20 goes into Adroit, or how does it happen?
Yeah, no, that ratio is pretty right, and I am a little bit, but yeah, probably 80%.
I love the 80-20.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably 80% of my time for 20% of my income. So it kind of, running a for-profit isn't to make money, that's for sure. So all the money goes back into the program. But trying to bubble it along and, step out a little bit of Tech Girls, because it's not just about me and I don't want it to be about me. Tech Girls has such a community of amazing people. We've got an amazing board, so many great role models and such diversity on our board, and just trying to put other people forward. We now have girls who've been through the program who are now studying IT and computer science, gender studies and stuff at university. So getting them into schools to be role models, which we did last year. We had one of our alumni running workshops in schools and presenting at schools. And it's just so awesome because I'm a little bit older for that now. It's so much better to have younger people doing that. And so that was really nice to see that come around full circle. So I am trying to step out of the spotlight, I guess, with Tech Girls, so that it kind of has, a community, so you can see the community, and it's definitely not just about me. But that gives me a little bit of opportunity to spend a bit more time, in the online community this year and kicking that off for Adroit, which is exciting. And I really love helping PhD students, and I love saving them time. And research is difficult enough. We don't need to make it any more difficult by getting stuck and having unnecessary challenges. So yeah, the idea is to hopefully unstick people and help them as they need it along the journey, and get them to complete quicker and completing at all, really, but complete with confidence. So yeah, it's really nice, and I love working with researchers because everyone's doing such interesting research. So I get to learn all about it and come in for a little bit and then jump out, and then hopefully save them a little bit and move on.
Yeah, that's cool. And also, have you found that you have two very different companies? One, I guess you make most of your money from. One is completely non-for-profit. So do they sort of complement each other? Do you because you do a lot of qualitative research, does that feed into, tech?
I think absolutely, and I'm trying to more and more marry them up, but they certainly complement each other, and that's kind of why it works. Tech Girls actually came out of research. So it's sort of this weird full circle thing. So because I started that research back with my lecturers in 2000, so looking at the lack of women in tech, I kept doing that research with them in it's called the WINIT project, so Women in IT. And we continued to do that for many, many years. I think we were still publishing up to 2010 or 2012, something like that. They've both now retired, the women that I was working with. But yeah, because I've been studying the lack of women in tech as research for, 10, 12 years. I then took what I knew from the research in terms of why girls weren't interested in tech, and basically took the two things and made them the foundation of Tech Girls.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. And what's your day in the life being, a double founder? What time do you wake up? What do you do? Do you go I'm going to check all the tech girl emails and I'm going to check them? Or how does it happen?
Well, very fortunately now I have a business manager Amy, she's in Canberra, and so we haven't seen each other for a year, but we chat every day on Slack, so that's fine. She's been with me for 3 years now, and she's never allowed to leave me. But yeah, we work really well together, and we kind of laugh at each other's jokes, and we kind of say the same thing at the same time, which is really weird. We were in a session late last year.
Wow, so in sync.
Yeah, we actually really are. It's kind of weird, but it's awesome. We very much think the same. And so I guess, I don't know if you know the work by Simon Sinek. He talks about start with why, and he's got the why, the how, and the what, and it's a brilliant book. And so what we've worked out is I'm the why person and she's the how person.
Oh,
so it's a very nice compliment. So I work out, why we're going to do stuff, and then she actually makes it happen. So she's awesome at paperwork, she's awesome at processes, and I literally throw anything at her and she goes and does it. It's awesome. She's super talented, and so so having her, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing now without her. She actually said to me recently, she goes, when you did this without someone, I don't know how you did all of this. And that was when I used to get up at 5 a.m. and work till 10 o'clock. I used to do a day's work before I went to work, kind of thing. So it was hard. I remember traveling a lot, and I'd be, it was very long hours. But now I don't work on weekends. I try not to get up early. Well, I've just invested in an office for Tech Girls for the very first time ever. It's an apartment in the city, which I'm using as an office, which has saved my brain, my mental health and my mojo, because I used to travel a lot before the pandemic, and then every week I'd be traveling pretty much, and now obviously no travel. So the last 2 years has been interesting to try and reinvent myself and work out what do I want to look like my work life going forward, and having time to do that, which is thus the online community rather than traveling. And so it's been interesting to just reinvent and see what that looks like, and going forward. But no, life is certainly interesting, and but no, I do have a pretty balanced work life, and certainly having an office now and not working at home is a really good thing, because it all
clear separation of space.
Oh yeah, no, and I had never had that before, so I am really, really appreciating and very grateful to have a new space.
Don't know how you did it. Yeah, so
so
do you
good.
have it like a Monday is, Adroit, and then, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday is tech health, or do you sort of mingle them all together as they go, or do you sort of try to like separate the two?
I think in an ideal world, having a day of different ones would be great. It just
Yeah.
never works out like that. I mean, some days I'll go and teach, so I'll be, running a workshop for an entire day. So I'll go on site somewhere, government department or a university. And so that takes me out for a couple of days. And so that's all I do on those days, but usually it all intermingles. So I did this. So I was troubleshooting an Adroit thing just, 10 minutes ago. And then I was writing a blog post for Tech Girls like half an hour before that. And so it definitely does intermingle. And to be honest, it's okay. I have a weird way of being able to switch my brain from one to the other, and it's all kind of in there together. And
Yeah.
I think because I know the research stuff so well, it's quite easy for me to troubleshoot and do stuff in that space. But again, I've got a great team. I've got, probably 6 people that work part-time for me, or one full-time and the other's part-time. So I do have some really great people who help me to deliver the stuff that I do, because otherwise, I take too much on, but I have a good team and we get it all done.
Yeah, that's cool. Just have 5 or so questions to quickly wrap up, because I realized we're going over time. So
you're fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah, cool. So I was kind of wondering, you received the prestigious Medal of the Order of Australia, and I was kind of curious, at that time when you, I guess, got the phone call that, you got it, what were you doing and how did you celebrate?
It's funny questions, because so if you think of the timing, so I received the Order of Australia medal in the Queen's Birthday Honours in 2020. So that was in June. Pandemic happened, started in late February, right? I have a PO box, and I actually didn't check my PO box when the pandemic happened. It turns out there was a letter sitting in the PO box for a number of months that actually said I was offering me an Order of Australia medal and would I accept it. And I didn't know about it. And I almost missed out on finding it. And they actually called us. They actually called Amy, my assistant, and were looking for me and saying, we sent you a letter. Can you respond? That's when I went to my PO box and found it. So fortunately, they followed up. So it could have actually gone pear-shaped. So check your mailbox, people. That thing that we get snail mail in? Yeah, we forget to do that. So fortunately, I did. Was very surprised. Still don't see it coming. It was, completely out of left field. And hadn't even occurred to me, to be honest, that was even a thing. I was very grateful to be nominated by someone who is anonymous. And celebrating, I guess it was hard because of pandemic and stuff. And, even the day that it happened, it was all virtual because we were all in lockdown at the time and weren't allowed to go out. So there was literally nothing happening. And so it was sort of like a bit of a, anticlimax, because you've got this, which is amazing, but then you can't really, share it too very publicly. But I was fortunate. I remember my LinkedIn post, I had the most comments and, likes and very, very kind people giving me feedback, which was great. And then I ended up having a ceremony in September of that year. So it was a few months later. But what was really nice, we went to Government House, and because it was social distancing at the time, I got to go in with the governor on my own. Normally there'd be a group of 100 people, but we actually got to go in on our own and had a little ceremony, and it was really very nice. It was very sweet, and I was very fortunate to be able to go. And I think it was only at that moment that I realized how big a deal it was. Because the governor, everyone's dressed up. It's kind of like the Queen's kind of done this. It's like, oh wow, it is kind of a big deal. So it felt real then when I finally had the ceremony and things. So it was, and got to share it with people that were important to me. So it was really, it was pretty special, and I still honestly can't quite believe it. I'm in a very, very prestigious group, and that's not lost on me, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we have some quick general kind of questions. So the deep one, in your opinion, what do you think the meaning of life is?
Oh, isn't it 42?
Oh yeah. Good one.
Hitchhiking Side of the Galaxy. Meaning of life. I think it's about learning, it's about being kind, it's about making the world a better place than when we got here.
Yeah, that's cool. And so what is your ideal perfect day in the life, if you could do anything? Day in the life, yeah. What time do you wake up? What do you do? What time do you sleep?
Oh, that's a really tricky question. I think a day in the life is that every day is different, to be honest. That's what I love about what I do, is that every day is different. There's never 2 days the same. And I love that. I love the variety. Yeah, I'm an early bird. The sun's shining. I'm happy to be up at 5, go for a paddleboard, have some nice breakfast, play with my cats, do a bit of reading, a bit of cooking. Yeah, and just being with loved ones, I guess, and good friends, and just laughing a lot.
Yeah, having fun. That's so important.
Laugh a lot till your belly hurts.
Yeah, it's a good ab workout, they say. Who needs the gym?
And good for your cheeks as well. But no, I think,
yeah.
And I used to have, like, girls would often ask me what my superpower was, and I would tell them it's my smile, because it's almost physically impossible for someone to frown at you when you smile at them.
Yeah.
Put your hands on your hips when someone's frowning at you, smile at them and see how they react. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so, if you won the lottery tomorrow and finances were not a concern, what would you change about your life, if anything?
That's a great question. I have thought about this question because it has come up before. Very little would change, I think, to be honest. I would still be working. I would still be doing the things that I do, because I wouldn't know what else to do. And I'm not, again, the hands thing, I've got to be doing something, and I've got to be doing something with my brain as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if I wasn't doing Tech Girls, I would probably help someone else who needs help. So whether it's around domestic violence, whether it's, I don't know what it would be, but it's certainly, there would be someone else that I would want to help. Yeah, but I don't think things would be much different. I might drink more expensive wine. I don't know. That might be it.
Cut back your work hours?
I think that's what happens. I think, the more money you get, you just spend more on the things that you like. I don't think things change very much. And, you get to a point, this research says, you get to a point where money doesn't actually make you any happier.
Yeah.
And I live pretty frugally anyway. So I think I never had money, so it's not a thing for me. And, running a not-for-profit, it all goes back there. So yeah, I think just being more generous with people. I love buying gifts for people. I love sharing things with people, and just, having good times together. And I think I just do more of that, more good relationships, like spend more time on good relationships.
Yeah, that sounds good. We've reached the end of the interview. Thank you so much for being generous with your time and, just being here, replying. And then, I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. And thank you so much. I enjoyed our chat so much.
Yeah, awesome. Me too. And if you'd like me to share or anything like that, let me know. But please keep in contact, and congrats on your graduating and your new job. And please connect on LinkedIn and stuff, and let's keep in touch.
Yeah, that sounds good. Tech girls stick together.
Absolutely. Love it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.